Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'd like to call this meeting of the Brick Township Council to order. Madam Clerk.
Adequate notice of this meeting was provided and published in the Asbury Park Press and the Ocean Star on February 8, 2019. Copies of the agenda were provided to the newspapers posted on public bulletin boards in the Township website.
Thank you. The roll call, please.
Councilman Fosman.
Here.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Here.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Here.
Councilman Mumolo.
Here.
Councilman Halloran.
Here.
Vice President Crate.
Here.
President Zepsic.
Here.
Thank you.
At this time, please silence or turn off your cell phones. And if everyone would please stand for the flag salute and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please approve and file the reports of the municipal officers?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Approve the minutes of April 9th, 2019 meeting. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Councilman Halloran. Roll call, please.
Councilman
Yes.
Fosman. Councilwoman Pontorero.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Zepsic.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have two presentations this evening. The first is for Mental Health Awareness Month. I'd like to invite Officers Brendan Barnes, Sean Flynn, and Captain Reinhardt and the Chief to join me at the podium, please. Each year on the calendar, May is designated Mental Health Awareness Month. This year, we wanted to take that opportunity to shine a light on stigma and the role that it plays in the lives of people with mental health and substance use disorders. Mental health and substance use disorders are the most stigmatized health conditions in the world today, and stigma is one of the largest barriers to those in need of help, getting the help that they need. We are joined tonight with members of our police department who, by their actions and interactions, help knock down those barriers for the people that they serve. Before I present the resolution tonight, I'd like to share a few paragraphs from a book entitled American Overdose, The Opioid Tragedy in 3 Acts by Chris McGreal. It's about stigma and how we got to where we are today. By the time of the Civil War, morphine was a standard treatment for traumatic pain, and millions of pills were dispensed to soldiers for wounds, disease, and battle stress. But the drug was taken orally and was notorious for causing stomach pains. The rise of the hypodermic needle changed that. Historian David Courtwright has likened a syringe of morphine to a magic wand that for the first time in the history of medicine could deliver almost immediate relief from pain. Civil War veterans were among the first to benefit, but before long, morphine injections were dispensed by doctors as a routine response to pain, and the medical use of opiates tripled in a decade. Courtwright estimated that by the 1880s, more than half of those hooked on the drug were middle and upper class white women who were prescribed it for feminine problems. Opiates and other addictive drugs were stuffed into a vast array of Victorian treatments lining drugstore shelves or touted in traveling medicine shows. With no restriction on their sale and little guidance on dosages, Americans were left to take as much as they saw fit or as much as they craved. The government realized it had a wave of addiction on its hands. Hundreds of thousands of people were hooked on opiates. At first, the public mood was sympathetic because most of those addicted were war veterans or from more privileged classes. Addiction was largely considered a medical condition. However, a prohibitionist movement took hold alongside the opposition to alcohol. In 1908, President Teddy Roosevelt appointed the country's first opium commissioner, Dr. Hamilton Wright, who described Americans as the biggest drug fiends in the world. After sporadic legislation to tax and limit opium imports, the U.S. Congress passed the Harrison Act in 1914 to restrict distribution to prescribing physicians. because the law involved taxation, the Treasury Department was left to enforce it. And drawing on their absolute lack of medical expertise, Treasury made a moral judgment that addiction was not a disease, but a human failing. So kind of think about that. It was the Treasury Department that decided that addiction was a moral failing. And that stigma lasts through today. So the resolution we are about to present tonight, whereas the mental health is part of our overall health and well-being, whereas May is Mental Health Awareness Month and an opportunity to highlight the importance of mental health, and whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when needed, whereas multiple studies have found that about half of those who experience mental illness during their lives will also experience a substance use disorder and vice versa, resulting in 1 in 5 adults being affected by a mental health or substance use disorder. And whereas stigma is defined as a mark of disgrace or infamy, a mental or physical mark that is a characteristic of a defect or disease, and whereas people experiencing mental health and substance use disorders face stigma every day, often resulting in rejection, bullying, and discrimination, and whereas early identification can make a difference in the successful treatment of mental health and substance use disorders, yet stigma is one of the most significant and underrated barriers preventing more than half of U.S. adults in need of help from accessing services. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping to end the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental health and substance use disorders and has discouraged people from getting help, whereas public education and civic activities can counteract stigma and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, and State of New Jersey, we salute the individuals and organizations that shine a light on mental health and substance use disorders, fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for equal care. We urge all residents to educate yourselves and others about mental health and substance use disorder and to pledge to combat stigma in your daily activities. Gentlemen, thank you so much for everything that you do. Yep. Thank you so much. I just want to make one very quick comment. I want to thank young Brick resident Christina Troyer, who is also a student at Monmouth University School of Social Work, for bringing this effort to our attention. She was unable to join us here tonight, but I did want to acknowledge her efforts in passing on the information that went into our putting this resolution together. So thank you all. Our second presentation tonight is to recognize National Emergency Medical Services Week. Councilwoman DeYoung, would you please go to the podium, join the mayor and Robert Contreras and Captain Reinhardt and our emergency medical technicians. Please come to the front.
In 1974, President Gerald Ford established the first EMS Week to help honor and celebrate emergency medical services practitioners and the important work they do in our nation's communities. The dedicated members of the Brick Township Police Department EMS team provide invaluable services to the people of our community and are the front line for life-saving services. EMS members provide out-of-hospital acute care and transport to definitive care and care for patients with illnesses and injuries in which the patient believes constitute a medical emergency. Our Brick Township Police Department EMS members are often the first responders to emergencies in our community, and their prompt attention can improve the chances of survival and recovery for the people they are treating. Every year, the importance of our EMS members and the services they provide to our community and communities throughout the nation are recognized and honored during EMS Week for their invaluable services. The EMS Strong theme for this year's observation is Beyond the Call, and allows us the opportunity to recognize our emergency medical services members, and it brings awareness to the importance of their profession among other healthcare professionals. For all of these reasons, I, John G. Ducey, the Mayor of the Township of Brick in the County of Ocean and the State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim the week of Sunday, May 19th through Saturday, May 25th, 2019 to be EMS Week, and we thank you for everything you do for our town and for our residents every single day of the week.
The council has a resolution which says, whereas the individuals who provide emergency medical services in the Township of Brick serve a vital role in our community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And whereas the week of May 19th through May 25th is recognized as Emergency Medical Services Week, and this year's theme is Beyond the Call. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physician, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. A lot of people there. Whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital, including preventative medicine and follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical professionals providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore, be it resolved of the Township Council, Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, we join Mayor Ducey in recognizing Emergency Medical Service Providers Week. So thank you very much, everybody.
Good. Are we good? Yes. Sorry, guys. Thank you.
Anything for you. You don't want me to read anything else? I can. I wrote it all down.
All right, we are now on to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. If discussion is desired on any item, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Thank you. Resolution 4-1.
Recognize Mental Health Awareness Month, May.
This resolution recognizes May as Mental Health Awareness Month and an opportunity to highlight the importance of mental health and learning the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when help is needed. This resolution salutes the individuals and organizations that shine a light on mental health and substance use disorder, fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for equal care. Resolution 4-2.
Recognize National Emergency Medical Services Week, May 19th through the 25th.
Thank you. Councilwoman Dion.
Yes, thank you. Recognize National Emergency Medical Services Week, May 19th through the 25th. This resolution honors the individuals who provide emergency medical services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week here in the Township of Brick. Every day, the men and women who provide emergency medical services go beyond the call, which is this year's theme, to serve our residents by providing essential life-saving services with exceptional skill, compassion, and dedication.
Thank you. Resolution 4-3.
Recognize Older Americans Month, May.
Thank you. Councilwoman Deal.
Thank you. This resolution recognizes May as Older Americans Month, which both recognizes and celebrates the contributions of our older Americans. This year's theme, Connect, Create, and Contribute, encourages older Americans to connect with families, friends, and services that support participation in activities and promote learning, health, and personal enrichment, as well as programs that give our seniors an opportunity to contribute their time, talent, and life experience to benefit others. And I just want to add that I think last Friday was the senior prom that the National Honor Societies of both high schools put on for our seniors here in Brick, and it is a great opportunity. It's a great event that these high school kids put on for our seniors, but also it teaches them about their era. They have a great band there, Sentimental Journey. They play big band music. The seniors teach the high school kids how to dance the way that they used to dance and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a really, really great opportunity for our senior citizens and our high school kids to really connect, create, and contribute to our community. So thanks to all that came out and participated.
Thank you. Resolution 4-4.
Combination, form, and sale authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes.
Thank you. Mrs. Bergen.
This resolution provides for the details related to the sale of the Township's $12,170,000 general bond improvement bond, Series 2019, and the $14,850,000 bond anticipation note, Series 2019. The bond and note will be sold and issued within the provisions of the local bond law.
Thank you. Resolution 4-5.
Authorize acceptance, Cops and Shops Summer Shore Initiative 2019 grant.
Thank you. Councilwoman Deal.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the acceptance of Cops and Shops Summer Shore Initiative 2019 grant offered by the State of New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety, Division of Alcohol Beverage Control, in the amount of $3,520. Grant funds are used towards initiatives that combat underage drinking.
Thank you. Resolution 4-6.
Authorize insertion of Chapter 159 Recreational Opportunities for Individuals with Disabilities Grant 2019.
Thank you. Council Vice President Crate, please.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the insertion of a grant in the amount of $11,700 into the 2019 budget. The grant award is from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs for the Recreational Opportunities for Individuals with Disabilities Grant for 2019.
Thank you. Resolution 4-7.
Authorize insertion of Chapter 159 Homeland Security Grant 2019.
Thank you. Councilman Halloran, please.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the insertion of a grant in the amount of $9,315 into the 2019 budget. The grant award is from the State of New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness, Homeland Security Grant. The Brick Township Police Department uses these funds for equipment. This year's grant will fund dive equipment.
Thank you. Resolution 4-8.
Authorize insertion of Chapter 159 2019 Community Development Block Grant.
Thank you. Councilman Mumolo, please.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the insertion of a grant in the amount of $299,207 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Community Planning and Development for the 2019 Community Development Block Grant. The funds received are administered for housing rehabilitation projects for applicants that meet eligibility criteria. The portion of these funds is also used to support the great work being done by the social service agencies in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 4-9.
Authorize receipt of bids roadway improvements to Brower Drive and Cranberry Cove Road.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the receipt of bids for roadway improvements to Brower Drive and Cranberry Cove Road project. Both of those roads will be, or those roads will be paved in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 410.
Authorize receipt of bids, general athletic equipment and supplies.
Thank you. Council Vice President Crate, please.
Yes, this resolution authorizes receipt of bids for general athletic equipment and supplies. The bid covers purchase and delivery of numerous categories of equipment, including but not limited to athletic equipment, summer camp supplies, preschool games, etc., used by the Recreation Department. The Township had an approximate expenditure of $22,200 during this current one-year contract period, which will expire on June 12, 2019.
Thank you. Resolution 411, please.
Authorize award of contract Normandy Beach outfall pipe replacement.
Thank you. Councilman Halloran?
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the award of contract for the Normandy Beach outfall pipe replacement project to Albert Marine Construction, Waretown, in the amount of $15,369. Bid notices were sent to 38 potential bidders, 12 contractors responded, and 6 bids were received, with prices ranging from $15,369 to $119,200. The project generally consists of replacement of 40 linear feet of ductile iron pipe into the Barnegat Bay at the Broad Avenue right-of-way at the Normandy Beach Clubhouse.
Thank you. Resolution 412.
Authorize extension of contract uniforms for various departments.
Thank you. Councilwoman DeYoung, please.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the extension of contract with Dock Designing, Monroe Township, for uniforms for various departments. In May 2017, the council awarded the contract to Dock Designing and will expire on May 23rd. The township is in need of a temporary 60-day extension to allow time to go out to bid and to make a recommendation of award. All items and conditions of the original bid contract will remain as awarded.
Thank you. Resolution 413.
Authorize extension of contract janitorial services.
Thank you. Councilman Mamalo, please.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the extension of a contract with All Clean Building Services for janitorial services. In May 2017, the council awarded a 2-year contract to All Clean Building Services for these services. Current contract will expire May 31st, 2019. Township is in need of a temporary 60-day extension to allow time to go out to bid to make recommendations of an award. All terms and conditions of the original bid contract will remain as awarded.
Thank you. Resolution 414.
Authorize extension of contract rental and laundry of public works uniforms.
Thank you. Council Vice President Crate, please.
This resolution authorizes the extension of a contract with American Wear East Orange for the rental and laundry of DPW uniforms, purchase and delivery of T-shirts and miscellaneous shop supplies. In May 2016, the council awarded a 3-year contract to American Wear and Aramark for these services. The current contract will expire on May 31st, 2019. The township is in need of a temporary 60-day extension to allow time to go out to bid and make a recommendation of award. All terms and conditions of the original bid contract will remain as awarded.
Thank you. Resolution 415, please.
Authorize memorandum of agreement Police Benevolent Association Local 230.
Thank you. Mrs. Bergen.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes a memorandum of agreement with the Police Benevolent Association Local 230. This contract is a 4-year agreement and includes a 3% total cost of contract increase for each year.
Thank you. Resolution 416.
Authorize exempt fireman certificate Brenton Woods Fire Company.
Mrs. Bergen.
Thank you. The township has been advised by Brenton Woods Fire Company, number 1, that member Ron Ruggiero has served the required number of years as active fireman pursuant to NJSA 40A-1456. According to Brick Township Code, a member of the voluntary volunteer fire company in good standing is entitled to the exempt status and benefits that come to them through the Board of Fire Commissioners. To qualify for the exemption, a firefighter must have service a total of 7 years and perform 50% of the fire duty during that period.
Thank you. Resolution 417.
Authorize placement of tax liens for property cleanups.
Councilman Mamalo.
This resolution authorizes the placement of a tax lien in the amount of $573.41 at 74 Kettle Creek Drive.
Thank you. Resolution 418.
Authorize special event permits.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Thank you. A is Fried and Furious. This resolution authorizes a special events permit for the Chamber of Commerce to conduct a Fried and Furious event on Saturday, June 1st, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. at the Brick Township High School parking lot. The event is a car show with food trucks, crafters, and vendors. B, Napa Tool Show. This resolution authorizes a special event permit for Van Wickle Auto Supply to conduct a tool show event on Saturday, June 1st, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. at 442 Brick Boulevard. C, Marina Party. This resolution authorizes a special events permit for a marina party and pig roast on Saturday, August 3rd, between the hours of 1:30 and 9:30 p.m. at the Jersey Shore Marina, 841 Route 70 East. A rain date has been set for August 4th. D, Scary Rotten Farms. This resolution authorizes a special events permit for Scary Rotten Farms at Berry Fresh Farms on Brick Boulevard from dusk to 11 p.m. during the months of September and October.
Thank you. Resolution 419, Madam Clerk.
Yes, bond releases and reductions, inspection fund release for Riverview paving on Van Zyl Road in the amount of $1.
Thank you. Resolution 420,
Authorize tax collector to prepare and mail estimated tax bills.
Mrs. Bergen.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the tax collector to prepare and mail estimated tax bills for the township's third quarter installment of 2019 taxes.
Thank you. Resolution 421, Tax Collector, Mrs. Bergen.
Sure. 21A, 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 380.09, Lot 2. 21B is 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 701.30, Lot 10. 21C is 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes, Block 1192.12, Lot 1. 21D is an assignment of a tax sale certificate at Block 340, Lot 33. And 21E is a state tax appeal that was granted for Block 852, Lot 1, 1743 Route 88 in the amount of $4,532.01. And 21F is a state tax appeal granted for Block 852, Lot 2, West Princeton Avenue in the amount of $10,175.29, which is for the years 2013, 14, 15, and 18.
Thank you. That ends our consent agenda. Open to council for questions.
Yeah, I have a few questions, Council
Councilman
President.
Fosman.
We're extending 3 contracts. Why are we extending those 3? Did we not get to them in time to advertise them?
That is correct. The staff is doing their best to keep up with the workload, and we have a new employee in training, so they just need a little bit more time to get this bid organized.
Okay, and also, 4-4, at the time of the sale of the bonds, and that's when we're going to know what the interest rate is?
We do not know what the interest rate is. This is
Till
much
sale.
like the SREC sale that we talked about at the last council meeting. What we want to do is have queued up the authorization for our CFO to work with our financial advisor and bond counsel to be checking the market, and when the market is ready, we want to optimize when the interest rates are at their lowest. So this is needed in order for them to do that. Financial advisor has recommended this is a good time to get this resolution on the books so that they have the authorization to go ahead and go through with the sale when the interest rates are at their best.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from council? Seeing none, may I have a motion and a second? Second. Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Council Vice President Crate. I'm going to open to public for questions on the resolution. Mr. Sluka.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. 2 sort of quick questions. These grants on 6, 7, and 8, always like getting extra money, but we can now include them in the budget for 2019 because we got the money, or why?
Yes, that is correct. We have to have at least a written commitment, which is a contract from the funding agency. Most of them are reimbursable, so we don't actually get a check. We get a grant award letter and a contract to execute. That is enough for our CFO to include that into the budget.
Okay, so you realize where I'm going with this. when that money comes in from that $5 million and the other $3 million and the $1.1 million, when that comes in, do we then immediately put it in the budget?
This, this money's already in the budget as it needed to be. For us to be able to spend the money to get reimbursed, you have to have the money up front. So the money to do these programs are already in the budget. A lot of these grants are recurring, so we know we're going to get them, yet technically they
Don't know
cannot
the
be
amount.
listed in the budget. So they're already in our budget. We're already going forward with our Cops and Shop program. We already had allocated money to buy equipment for the dive team. This just offsets
So this
those
is basically
expenditures.
off just getting the grant?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Well,
And it,
Sorry.
and then the other quick question I had, not a question, yeah, actually. On number 18, it may be too late to change anything, but I hate the title, Fried and Furious. As soon as I read it, you know what I thought of? Did anybody else think of Fast and Furious?
It's a car show, and the chamber
I don't care what
named
it
it
is.
like that.
I don't care what it is, I'm
So
just...
it's
And I said it's probably
cars.
too late, but you know what it brings to mind immediately? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Slifka, did you get your answer for the $5.5 million from Food Town? I don't think you did.
Yeah, she sort of said that you got to have, right, you don't have it in the budget because you can't do it because you don't have the money yet.
I answered specifically to your questions on the grants that were on the resolution.
Yeah, and then I...
Was that what you asked?
Yeah, and the other part of it was that, so can we do the 5 million or whatever it happens to be for those other items that will come in later in the year? But you answered this question, sort of eliminated that possibility because you don't know the amount exactly. Is that what you said?
So the grants are covered, right? But
Right.
then you mix in something
Well, then I
about-
said,
Okay,
the other
right.
money coming in
Right. So we
can't be in the
covered-
budget because,
Right, we covered that at the budget
Right.
hearing, what we intended to do with that.
yeah, you have to wait. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Call?
Nan Call, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard, and thank you, Councilman Fosman, for questioning what I was going to about the extension and why we're seeing that there. However, I have mentioned many times, and I'm going to mention it again, and I'm going to mention it again and again and again. You do not give us enough information. We no longer have a caucus meeting. We no longer get sufficient information. All of these things would have been discussed in depth, and I call to your attention a letter that I read that Senator Loretta Weinberg had sent as an op-ed to newspaper, I believe Asbury Park Press, back in 2013. I'm going to write to her personally about the fact that we are entitled to know how you come up with your decision. Everything that goes into your facts. You had awarded a contract to Albert Marina. You mentioned sending out 38 packets, I think, getting 12 responses. We're entitled to know each and every one of those, who they were from, how much money. They should not be part of a consent agenda. A consent agenda is that which there's no question that any of us need more information about it. Nobody ever pulls anything out for discussion, and for the rest of us, it's really too late to do that. There's much on here that we don't get enough information. Grants. I've heard in the past that some grants actually had wording in there that we had to have some kind of matching funds. All of these grants, there's no provision that we have to contribute anything. Is that correct? I don't like to make assumptions, but I'm left with...
Every grant is different. I'm not certain. Ms. Bergen, do you know on the Cops and Shops, the Homeland Security grants and the CDB? I don't think there's a match on CDBG.
There's not a match on CDBG, but there is on the recreational opportunities for individuals.
Oh,
with disabilities.
again with that, please. There is a match on...
Yes, so most funders will require an in-kind match, particularly if it's for, say, a Cops and Shops program or recreational opportunities, because we implement those programs. So they want to see that you have as much of a commitment to the program as the funder does. So it's not necessarily that we are writing ourselves a check or writing the funder a check, but we commit to providing the personnel that will spend X amount of hours on the program.
So now that one pertains to which number for what?
I was referencing 6, which is recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities, and I also referenced 5, which is the Cops and Shops program.
Both of those have matching funds required.
In-kind contributions, correct.
And is there a dollar amount in each of those?
I would expect that those are in the agreements. I don't have them in front of me.
You don't have
I
them
can
in front of
certainly
you,
clarify that.
and we haven't discussed it, and we didn't know that to begin with. Let me see. Oh, yes, I've asked for it before, that you please give the name and address of 4.21 about the canceling taxes or tax certificates. This is public information. I just don't want to have to take the time to try to get onto the county website and go through each one by block and lot. I shouldn't have to. I come to the meetings to get the information. So telling me that, well, it's a disabled American veteran and you want to keep it confidential, it isn't. It is public record, and anyone can look at it. I'd appreciate that we get all of that. And then the bugaboo about the property cleanups. Same goes for that. I'd like to have complete information, name, address, and why it had to get to that point. Sorry,
Excuse me,
but-
Nan, I found here what it is, 4.5, Cops to the Shop, it's $3,520, that's the matching grant on that, and 4.6, it looks like it's $11,700.
And that was so difficult for anybody to have given that when you did it. And if you had pulled them out and discussed them properly, as you should, not part of a consent agenda, which automatically indicates no additional. And we should not be constrained by a clock when we are seeking information that should have been forthcoming without us even asking for it.
Anyone else on the resolutions? Yes, sir.
It's usually a dollar amount, but it's an in-kind
Oh, Mr. Finelli, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you with your hat on. I could only see the hand waving.
I miss a meeting, you forget who I am. I have some questions about the PBA referendum. I read it 3 times, and I spent a half hour on the phone with Joanne today, and I'm still not sure I understand it. Is this more complicated than they normally are, or is it just me?
But why don't we hear your questions and...
Okay, well, as I understand it, because you just said 3% pay raises, but this actually says 2.5%, so the pay...
I don't believe I said pay raises. I think I said 3% cost of contract.
Okay, that's a little confusing. The contract says they're getting 2.5% each year for 4 years.
Right, but I think the...
Pay raise.
Right, it was important, I believe it's important that there's not the appearance of being disingenuous by saying, oh, it's a 2.5% increase, because that's not accurate. There was another item that was included that is a cost to the township, so by saying 3%, we're being more forthright than just trying to tell you the salary portion.
Okay.
What's
I'm
the other item?
just talking about the salary right now.
Okay.
The salary's going up 2.5% for a 4-year contract. Then when we get to the benefits part of it, and I know you tried to explain this to me, but maybe I'm dense, it appears to me that for the next 4 years, whatever the PBA members pay is being frozen for 4 years.
You're talking about the health care contribution.
Right, yeah.
Yes, so the health care contribution, so I'll take you over the overview. So all 4 of our collective bargaining units settled at a 3% cost of contract. They all wanted the same thing. They wanted some relief in their pay, they wanted to see a little bit of increase in their pay, and they wanted some relief in their health insurance contributions. So those goals came to fruition with a 2.5% salary increase and a freeze in the health insurance contribution in their current tier. So if a salary increase occurs to an employee that moves them into the next tier of contributions, they move. The freeze is only within the current tier that they are in. So that is the freeze that we talk about when we talk about the health care contribution. And that was across the board for all three of the bargaining units.
You did say they wanted relief in what they're paying for medical benefits.
Health insurance, correct.
I do too. However, let me do my scenario now. I also looked at the retired people, and if my math is correct, depending on what year you retire, it goes up 1.25%. So for a 4-year, whatever you fall in, it goes up 5% total. I brought this up at meetings before, and I'll bring it up again. What it appears to me as a taxpayer, first of all, I don't think anybody here expects that the medical insurance is only going to go up 5% in the next 4 years, or not go up at all. It's been averaging 4% a year for a long time, and I even came in here and talked about what happened with Social Security and my $2.70 a month I got with my raise and everything. And it's nice to want relief for something, and I want relief too, but what's happening here and everywhere else, and we're talking about the 40% of people in Brick that are over 60 years old, and most of them are probably on fixed incomes or Social Security or something, ours are going up. And they're not going up 1 or 2%. They're going up a lot more. And every year it goes up. Nobody can stop it. So I have to pay for my medical benefit increase. No matter what it is, I have no choice. I have to pay. Medicare goes up, I have to pay. They take it right out of your Social Security check. You don't even have a chance. What I object to is having to pay my increases and having to pay everybody else's increases. It's a double whammy. I'm getting hit. People in Brick are getting hit. Every time medical insurance goes up, we have to pay for our own, and we have to pay for everybody else. I'm a firm believer in fair share. Now, if we can come up with ways to reduce the cost of medical expenses, fine. If we can't, and we all have to pay, maybe with all these drug companies being sued this week, something will happen. I don't know. But history says 4% a year across the board. So if I'm looking at 4% a year, and they're looking at 5% for 4 years, I don't think that's fair. And if I have to pay my increases and the taxpayers get stuck with everybody else's increases, I don't think that's fair either. Now, as the mayor likes to say, we're all family. But some of the family is making out better than other members of the family, and people are leaving in droves, and they're going to continue to leave droves until this stops. If it stinks for everybody, that's fine. Then I have no complaint. But if other people are getting hurt a lot more, then it's not fair. I don't care whether people like it or not. It's not fair to the people who live here, who are on fixed incomes, and have to pay for somebody else's increases when we have to pay for our own. If you can come up with some formula that's going to help me, fine. The state is broke. The homestead rebates are in half. The freeze thing keeps getting knocked backwards. Every year I think I'm going to qualify for that. And every year, when it comes budget time, they say, oh, no, we're not going to give this, we're only going to give that. We're getting hit, and we're getting harder than everybody else. And I don't want to sound like I'm greedy, but, you know, we pay a patrolman here very good salaries, right? So they're making more money than a lot of the people that are retired and having to pay twice. I don't think it's fair. I think when you're going to negotiate these things, you need to look at everybody. That's it.
Anyone else on the resolutions? Mr. Scott?
Good evening, George Scott. A couple of questions. First of all, thank you for recognizing me on 4-3 as the older Americans. It's really nice. The 4-7, whoever responded, the Homeland Security grant, $9,315 is for equipment. I mean, can you stipulate what type of equipment? Do we know?
Dive.
Okay. 415, I was also in touch with Ms. Bergen today. She was very helpful in explaining a lot of this agreement to me. Two questions that I have, and one, the chief and I had spoke about this a long time ago. Article number 10, where it says, paragraph 8, add the PBA agrees to the township's use of Special Law Enforcement Officer 3. Going back a little way, we didn't have enough qualified Officer 3 titles. Do we now? Do you know?
These are, the special threes are for the school security? Let me check what section did you say? Oh, so this, the article that he's referencing is specific to the special officer threes that we requested the PBA allow us to use for
Right,
school
which I'm
security.
okay with that, but
Right.
at some point, I had thought that we didn't have enough Special 3 officers. My question is, do we now have enough to do the security at schools available?
We don't have any, but we'll,
The school, the security officers that are there now, they're retired police officers were hired by the schools, not by
Oh, okay. Then why do we even, if they're hired by the schools, why do we even need this in there? That,
yeah, I think, it's,
We were looking to increase, add two special one-offs.
no, it's not. It's for us to enter into an agreement with the school district, you have to be supervising the special threes, and they're going to offset the cost. So for us to do that, we had to go to the PBA and ensure that they were on board with us appointing them as special threes and being supervised by the chief, although the cost for the school security will be offset by the school.
by the board.
Right, so it's really
I'm
the
okay with that.
supervision of them as officers that have to fall under our umbrella.
Okay. I guess the other thing that I didn't clarify today, or I didn't actually ask you, I apologize about that, is in Article 9, Paragraph 2. It stipulates a 30-day written notice to terminate this agreement, and then extending it from year to year if it goes beyond the 2022. Can you explain that a little better?
I looked into that, so that was one of the things that Mr. Pinelli brought up. There he is, when I spoke to him earlier. This has been a part of the contract for as many contract backs as I could look. Every year we just change the dates. So it's not a new thing we introduced. The reason it's being amended is to reflect the dates of this contract.
Okay. It just seems odd that you'd extend it from year to year, but negotiations always go on for the next year.
Well,
They're not
that's
gonna
under
go-
the assumption that neither side
It's
contacts
going
the
to
other.
stay status quo.
Yeah, right. But that's
Okay.
under the assumption that neither side says, hey, we have to start doing, which we do in August. So I
Okay.
can't ever see that happening.
Just a little strange.
Yeah.
420, the estimated tax bills. I am always happy to see this on there because the way the township used to do this, we used to finance tax anticipation notes. Nobody ever complained about it but myself. It cost the township sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. We don't do that anymore, thank goodness. So it's a savings of money. My specific question is, on the calculation, it tells you what the ratables are for 2019. It doesn't have it for 2018. I'm sure somebody would know that other than myself. But what I'm trying to get to is the estimated tax bill that's going to come out is based on $10,348,130,000 of tax ratables for 2019. I'm sure that's a little higher than 2018. I'm sure, at least I hope so. But specifically, the local tax is $73,782,000. When above, in 2018, it was $72,615. My question, Madam President, is how do they get to that when they have a whole itinerary, if they use a 95% breakdown or 105% breakdown, but the breakdown is neither one of those. So I'm really good at math. If you could explain that to me, I'd like an answer.
I wish I could. I did ask, I asked Maureen the same question,
Okay?
and it has to do with the calculation of the ratables, and I'll be honest with you, Mr. Scott, that calculation was so far over my head, I had to trust her numbers, I asked the same question. I was like, this doesn't make any sense, But she said it had to do with the increase in the ratables. And there's an entire calculation that goes into it. So what I would say is that perhaps if you reached out to her, she could explain it a little bit better to you.
Okay. And I appreciate your straightforward answer.
I'm not going
But
to spitball it if I don't know.
You guys are the ones that are going to vote on it. I'm just up here asking a question that everybody's going to get this bill. And again, just not, you're voting on the local tax part of it. The school tax, which the chief financial officer used, was $113 million, which is $3,411,000 more than last year. A lot of money. So again, knowing that $1 million is less than a penny, because we're going up 9/10 of a cent, which is 900 grand, this automatically would say, well, the school portion is going up 4 point something. The 73 million, which is up $1,166,000, is more than 9/10 of a cent. It's more than a penny. So
That's
where's the
exactly the
logic?
question that I asked her. And she said that it had to do with, because I said to her, I saw that.
Okay.
And I said to her exactly what you just said. Typically, it's a penny per million, and it was like 1.1. And I said, you told us 0.9. And she said, it is 0.9. The difference is in the increase in the ratables. And she offered to explain the calculation to me, and I said, you're telling me it's 0.9,
Okay.
I'm happy with 0.9 and not 1.1, but
But they're the rub. If there's an increase in ratables, the number would go down even more. So if there's less ratables last year and more this year, it's spread out even more. So it should be less than that and not more than that. That's why it didn't make sense. Didn't
I'm
make
with
sense to you either.
I'm with you 100%. I don't understand the
I
calculation.
think until you all do, you should vote no on that then, until you get a real good answer. Thank you.
Anyone else on the resolutions? All right. Seeing none, close public, roll call, please.
Councilman Bosman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontoriero.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Abstain 4-8, yes to the rest.
Councilman Mamalo.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Zapsik.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 22, bill resolution.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Computer bill resolution in the amount of $2,354,684.24.
Thank you. Open to council.
Yes, I have a few questions, Council
Councilman
President. On
Posner?
page 4, Traders Cove Marina, it says dredging, $655. And is that just for more dredging that we're doing there, or we still owe the person money?
Councilman Fosman, are you referencing the ARH bill on page 4?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So it is the same, this is ARH, who we hired to do survey, dredge plans, permit, DEP permit, the Army Corps permit, and soil samples. So their total, this is a drawdown on their total invoice that they were, or contract that they were awarded to do this project.
Okay, and just while we're on the subject there, I did email the engineer, and on May 7th, and she gave me, there's no, when are we supposed to receive the testing of the soil? I know it's been done, and we should have received it this week.
We have not received it yet, and I did get your email where you were asking for the sample, so I would be happy to send you a copy of it when I get it.
Thank you. Page 11. Constant contact, it says newsletter,
Correct.
and the newsletter is, and where are they mailed to, the newsletters? They mailed to?
It's the email blast.
Constant Contact is an email service.
So when residents visit our website, a box prompts up asking if you'd like to receive email updates from the township.
No.
If you fill out your email address, you get those emails, and this is the software program that enables us to do that.
And this is every month, or this is yearly?
We send the emails out, we try to
No,
send them
I
out.
meant the cost.
Oh, it's annual. Right, is that correct? Yeah. It's annual.
$798, that's once a year, you're saying?
Yes, so, and it's only emailed to people who subscribe. It's not sent to
Excuse me,
anybody who does not want to get it.
Councilwoman, can you shut up while I'm listening to the BA?
I'm just letting you know.
No, I'm not talking to you, I'm asking her.
So,
Is there another
Councilman
question?
Fosman, if I could clarify one answer. It's only sent to people who subscribe, so we don't send emails to anybody who doesn't, who hasn't told us that they specifically want to get that information.
Thank you. Page 15 and 16. Griffith LLC, it has on their Windward Beach Phase 2 upper level fix. I don't know what that is.
So we have a township electrician that works for our Buildings and Grounds Department. So when he needs materials, we have, he uses Franklin Griffin, and all of these different invoices are tied to projects that he's working on.
Okay, and the area lighting, is that also for Windward Beach? Because that was almost $17,000.
And so he purchased quite a bit of equipment. So the Police Operations Building, Windward Beach, Civic Plaza, Windward Beach, and the Marina.
Do you see the second section down there where it says $16,980? It says area light,
Yes.
that's for Windward Beach?
Yeah, so we modified, we modified some of the lights specifically at Windward, so that the lights weren't shining out and were obnoxious to some people on the other side of the water or in the immediate area, to lights that shone down, because the whole purpose of them is to provide security, so it really was more helpful for us if the lights were shining down in the area. And so we first modified the ones down at the furthest end of the beach, and then moved our way up into the
I just wanted to let you know, business administrator, that I'm asking these questions. I'm not on these committees.
Okay.
I'm not on any of these committees. That's why I'm asking these questions, and that's why I want the answers.
Yeah,
I'm only on one
I don't know
committee
that
here.
this was,
We've got 6 committees, I'm on one.
this,
Okay, page 25. Get my page here. Monmouth Marine Engines, I see we repaired the boat there. How come we don't use people in Brick? We're going out of town to use, I thought we were supposed to use in town, people in our own town to repair stuff.
well,
Is
this
there any
is reimbursed
specific
by the
reason?
county, so the county works with us on the vendors that they want to use on these boats, and we have I would imagine, I've never repaired a boat, but I know that our vehicle maintenance staff tends to go right to the company that makes a specific part that they need to fix a boat, and as long as the county is aware of and approves of the vendor, that's what we do.
Because it was a repair to the hull of the boat, so I mean, it's fiberglass.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
couldn't
I'm just
speak for
curious-
them,
I'm just
but
curious. I'm trying to use the people in our town,
and so do we.
And page 29, Ocean County Municipal Joint Liability Workman's Comp. Kevin, I sent you an email. I know the mayor and Joanne Bergen do have a lawsuit against them, and does that go under our liability insurance when if JIF decides to help them, or how does that work?
It's not a help. It's the township, unfortunately, is the subject of a lot of different lawsuits at a lot of different times by a lot of different people. We have liability insurance through the Ocean County Joint Insurance Fund to cover those lawsuits, and the officials and representatives and employees of the township if they're dragged into them. So the Ocean County Liability Joint Insurance Fund does provide liability coverage, meaning attorneys and defense costs to anyone in the township who's subject to lawsuit because of their official duties.
But they would have to, if I was to get sued, but I came to you, you said it was okay to do what I was going to do, and then I got sued, I'd be covered, right?
If it was an action that you took in your official capacity as a council member, you most certainly would be covered by the Joint Insurance Fund, yes.
But if I did something on my own recklessly, I'd be responsible for that.
Right, if you're out driving your own personal car and you get into a car accident, the township's insurance doesn't cover that. You're on your own for that, right?
That's sort of what I was asking. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions from council? Okay, motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Councilman Halloran. Open to public for questions on the bill resolution. Seeing none, close public. Roll call.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontarera.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Abstain CME, yes to the rest.
Councilman Momolo.
Abstain, Meridian Occupational Health, yes to the rest.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Zapsik.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 23, bill resolution.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Manual bill resolution in the amount of $3,281,710.71.
Thank you. Open to council for questions? Seeing none, motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Councilman Halloran. Open to public for questions on the manual bill resolution. Seeing none, close public. Roll call, please.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontarera.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Abstain CME, yes to the rest.
Councilman Momolo.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Zapsik.
Yes.
Thank you.
5-1, ordinance on first reading.
An ordinance of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, vacating a portion of the right-of-way known as Iroquois Drive.
Thank you. There's no public hearing on the first reading. Councilman Mumolo, please.
Thank you, Madam President. This ordinance vacates a portion of a township-owned right-of-way on Iroquois Drive. The vacation request was reviewed and approved by the council's Land Use Committee. The resident who submitted the vacation request purchased property on both sides and intends to consolidate 3 lots and build a home. The property is in the Cedar Grove section. There is no public access at this location. The property owner needs to get a CAFR permit, and the BTMUA needs an easement to access their utilities. There are requirements in the vacation as requested. The applicant provided, these are requirements in the application, as requested, and the applicant provided a meets and bounds description.
Thank you. A motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Council Vice President Crate. Open to council for questions?
I have some questions. The meets and bounds, the property owner paid for those surveys?
I believe so, that's correct.
Yes, that's
Yes,
correct.
that's
They
what he
put
did. And is this land, I don't have that much information on this. Is it landlocked?
Yes, it's a dead end of a street. It actually wasn't even a street. It was used by the previous owner as their driveway, so people didn't even know it was a road. But when this gentleman wants to build on there, he can't because of the actual roadway.
I see that it's one of the surveys, it was 33 by, trying to get it up here, 84 piece of land. So it's, one was 10 by 18, and the other section was 33 feet by 84. So the township, since he did the survey, the township's willing to give this land to him for free?
When a street gets vacated, it's not a tax property as it is, because it's owned, then it becomes vacated, and then it becomes a taxable
So
property. Am I correct,
both
Counsel?
these, excuse me, both these surveys are on the same same street?
Yes,
Yeah.
if I can explain, yes. The first one, Schedule A, is a description of the portion of the roadway that's being vacated. B is actually a subsection of that part that's being vacated that is, what B says, it's still subject to an easement by the MUA. Because the MUA has some equipment
They
in
have to
there.
have the right of way. I can
So
see that.
that's really just to define what is, got to remain there as part of MUA.
There is no value to this property, or the town cannot charge for this property when they vacate?
No, the town does not own the property. No, the township only has a of right-of-way access
Okay,
on the property.
Who owns the property then? He does?
What happens when a roadway is vacated is the people on both sides of the roadway each are entitled to a property to the midpoint of the road. So it's basically split into the neighboring properties.
But this is a dead end, so there's no split of the property, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
We said it was a dead end, right?
It's a dead end.
Correct.
So there's no split of the property.
I believe there's property actually on both sides of
There
this. Like it's a dead end and there's property on the north and south sides of it. So it'll get split between the two of them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, close council. Roll call, please.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontoriero.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilman Momolo.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Zapsik.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 6, ordinance on second reading.
An ordinance of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending the Township Code of the Township of Brick to extend the restrictions on parking in the playground lot at Traders Cove through the summer months.
Thank you. Council Vice President Crate.
Yes, this ordinance reestablishes a 2-hour parking restriction in the playground parking lot at Traders Cove from May 15th through September 15th between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. This is being done to ensure that the parking lot is being used only for the facilities and amenities at Traders Cove. The parking restriction signs installed last year are currently covered and will remain covered until this ordinance takes effect. No violations will be issued until after the ordinance takes effect.
Thank you. A motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Momolo, second by Council Vice President Crate. Open to council.
Yes, I have some questions on this. This was brought up last year, and I voted no on it. One of the biggest reasons, this is an unenforceable 2-hour parking. I mean, what are you going to do? Have the police go out there and chalk mark the tires and ride back 2 hours later and check the tires? I mean, towns even passed a no-wake thing when the water's in the road and they drive through it. Unless the police officer sees that person driving through it to give them a ticket, it's unenforceable. So I don't see really any use for this at all. I just think this is a money grab. At Traders Cove, we have over 150 boat slips. We have jet ski slips. We have kayak storage. We have a small beach there. The county's with us on this. There's fishing. There's crabbing. We have a boat ramp. This ordinance just useless, as the beach cooler search, which was never performed. It was just ordinance passed. I never seen, because we have 16-year-old kids checking badges there. I never seen one of them check my cooler. It's just, I think it's just ridiculous. No other park has it, just this one.
Anyone
That's
else
all I
from
have to
council?
say.
Open to public. Seeing none, close public.
Wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Bacon.
Of course.
My apologies, I didn't see you back there.
It's a little slow. I'm still celebrating being seated in this resolution. Thank you, Council President, for recognizing me. My name is Charles Bacon. I live at 676 Thiel Road. I have a couple questions I'd like to ask
Certainly.
about the ordinance. I'm not in politics, but I'm kind of curious. How did this ordinance start? What was the genesis of it? Does it go through a committee first?
So we did,
I mean, how do we get to an ordinance that's coming in front of the public and eventually going to be voted on?
If I may, Council
Absolutely.
President Zapsik has nodded, so I'd like to just give you kind of a bit of a background. So
Okay, thank you.
what problems were relayed to me by the staff at the marina was that there were a number of people coming on the weekends that were parking in the area right in front of the playground, because that's also the location where you can get on the transient slip. And they would park, they'd walk on the transient slip, they'd get picked up by a boat, and they'd spend the day out in the boat on the water. So as families would come in to use the playground, they'd have to park on the clamshell lot over on the county side and walk with their little ones over to the playground. And that was the start of the discussion of how do we make sure that there's a certain number of playground spots that really are saved for the playground. That was a discussion that was brought back to the Recreation Committee. So when a department has a challenge that they think may be faced by ordinance, they'll usually run it by me. I run it by the council president and say, make a suggestion. Maybe it's Recreation Committee, maybe it's Public Works Committee, maybe it's Public Safety Committee that met before this meeting, and they talked about a couple of potential draft ordinances. Went to the Recreation Committee, explained the problem as it was explained to you. So the goal of the ordinance was simply to have a mechanism in place that would ensure that or folks wanting to go to the playground and use a playground had a spot close by to be able to park and enjoy the playground. And to prevent people from using those spots right there at the playground to hop on a boat and be gone for the day. Now that we had it in place last year, some of the discussions I had this year before I went back to the council president and the Recreation Committee to say, how about renewing this? I asked the staff, well, how did it work for you last year? Was it effective? The feedback I got was that we have, as the mayor has mentioned previously, we have park security. So we don't want to bother the police with people that are parking someplace and blocking staff, but that's part of what the park security does. The staff has indicated to me, I was at the marina on Saturday because I like to check that the signs are covered till this is done, and I asked a staff member who was there, was the sign helpful for you last year? And I asked that prior to taking it back to the committee, and they said it was very helpful because, and I know I do this sometimes here at Town Hall when people park in spots that they're not supposed to park in. I say, you can park there. And I point to the sign and say, but don't be surprised if you come out and you have a ticket or your car is towed because there's an ordinance that says you can't be parked here for longer than 2 hours. So you can park there and go out on that boat, but when you come back 6 hours from now, don't be surprised by a ticket or a tow. And what it does is it gets them back in the car and it relocates them to a further spot in the park where they can park for longer than 2 hours.
Excuse me, Council President, might I say something? Mr. Bacon, there's 70 parking places in that playground area, 70. There's plenty of parking for everybody. You're telling me 70 boaters come in here, take the parking places all up, jump in a boat? No, people pay money to rent these slips at the marina. They might have a friend come down there and get on a boat with them. And in that clamshell area, we have people that launch boats for the day. They park their car with the trailer over in that area. So having enough parking is essential.
Got it. So when do all the winter storage boats have to be out technically? Do you allow them to stay into May, or do they have to be out in April?
They should be out by May 1st.
Got it. So do we have area there where transients could park? Here's my concern.
Well, the transients don't park. So the transient boaters are transient boaters that are usually traveling the intercoastal waterway, so they don't have a vehicle. So
All right,
that
but
slip,
who's parking in the playground area then? I'm confused.
people
I'm
that
sorry.
are using the dock, using the transient dock. So if you own a boat and you want to pull up to Trader's Cove to the transient dock and pick up 6 of your friends to go on the boat with you that day, they park, and they walk on the dock and get on your boat.
Okay.
So we tried fixing that with a gate. And the gate, there is a gate that's installed, and it's a coded gate. But the way that the dock is, the gate can only go so high, they just climb around the gate. So we do have a gate, we do have signs, we're trying to get people to do the right thing, but found this ordinance last summer was particularly helpful in leaving the spots open up for people that want to use the playground.
Got it, but why couldn't the transients, in your example there, you say, so they come to the dock, some of their friends park where they shouldn't be parking, right?
They park where we would prefer that they not park.
Okay, so why don't we address that versus the playground? And I'll give you an example, and this is why I came up here. When I was at work yesterday, I work with a lady that has twin 4-year-olds that utilize the park. Okay, now we have an ordinance that says 2 hours. Now, she has a smartphone. I can't use it. I'm not smart. So on her smartphone, she talks, there's a timer, right? There's a timer app. You can do a countdown. What is she supposed to do if she wants to stay at that park, parks legitimately in the playground area? And now she's saying, well, it's 1:55, my kids are enjoying the park and they want to stay there. Is she supposed to, under this ordinance, put them in a car seat, because she can't move the car without them in a car seat, and where is she supposed to move? So I have a problem a little bit with how we're trying to use the playground area of this, and yet it's an issue with people that are parking there that are using our docks. I think it should be addressed differently. So that's my point I wanted to bring up because I talked to her about it. So based on that, I do not feel this ordinance should be approved, and it actually should be taken back to the council and whatever committee it came out. I wasn't quite sure if it came out of land and use.
Recreation. I think
It
it
is
came from
recreation, there's a
recreation.
committee for that?
That's
Okay.
correct.
I think it should be addressed differently for the example I gave you. I think it's going in the wrong direction. So my recommendation is this should be held and looked at through a different lens, and if somebody's abusing it, it should be those people that the ordinance should be directed at, not the people using the playground with little children. So thank you for allowing me to spend extra time up here.
Thank you. Ms. Call.
And Call 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. So many thoughts going through my head. I will start with the fact that I think I'm channeling Sister Mary Gilbert, my first-year Latin teacher, and in view of the conduct of two council people, most recently, Mr. Mumolo throwing down a pen or something, you have some consummate goal. You're here to serve us and not to display fits of pique. Second of all, or on the subject of the ordinance, what Mr. Baker said is absolutely correct. First of all, how did this happen? We, the people, are actually supposed to be self-governing. You're supposed to be acting as our representatives. When I first came here, the mayor was Joe Scarpelli. I was not his biggest fan. He didn't know it for many years. He thought that I was in his political party. However, sometimes I look back and reflect that the one thing he did right is he had the caucus meetings at which we, the people, could discuss any issue like this till we were all happy and satisfied that we knew what was going to happen. These subjects, this idea, did not come from committees in those days. It came from the caucus meetings and we, the people, saying, I find this a problem. Of course, Joe, Smiley Joe as I used to refer to him in my head, did a lot of pandering. And because of that, we have on Burnt Tavern Road at 17th Avenue, it's cut off and traffic cannot go from one side of Burnt Tavern to the other. People that have to go to the Parkway had to go around the bend, but he pandered to a certain group and put a long-time solution to a short-term problem, which was the change on Route 70 where they made, it appears that a councilwoman is finding my statements funny that she did previously with Mr. Fosman. It was Route 70, the construction, where you now have an exit that comes off 70 prior to Burnt Tavern, and you can make the left or right to go down Burnt Tavern. Now that caused, while it was being done, a lot of truck vehicles to go on streets like 17th. And there's no sidewalks there, and children play there. So there was a short-term problem where the vehicles, commercial vehicles, would be on that tract, and so they put in long-term solutions that made it difficult for all the people. But he pandered. He pandered with Home Depot, the people that worked. They were not brick citizens. They were not brick taxpayers. They worked in St. Thomas Lutheran. They had children in St. Thomas Lutheran. And our caucus meetings used to be held in what was a conference room. It's been redesigned since then. Doesn't look exactly as it did then. And these teachers and parents would come in, oh, please, Mr. Mayor, don't let Home Depot go in there. And so we have 10 years later, Food Town has not been redeveloped. This is ridiculous. When do we, the people, actually get to discuss these things, to bring up what we want, what we need, and not rely upon people who have no idea what we want and need, making these decisions in a committee that not even every council member is privy to? Those committees are supposed to present their suggestions, reports, what have you, in front of us, the people, and the full council, and then make the decision.
Anyone else on the ordinance? Seeing none, close public. Roll call, please.
Councilman Fosman.
Absolutely not.
Councilwoman Pontarero.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilman Momolo.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Zapsik.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Item number 7, public comment. Madam Clerk.
Please note that each person addressing the council during any section of the meeting during which public comment is permitted shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes pursuant to Brick Township Administrative Code, Section 2-33B.
Thank you. Who would like to be first? Mr. Sluka?
Good evening, John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. Before I start on this letter, one suggestion. For first reading type of things, try to address when people make comments back and understand what they're talking. They're trying to give answers to other people on the council. I couldn't hear some of the comments going back and forth because you won't use the microphones. Okay? Just like I said, I know we're not supposed to talk about it, but we should be able to hear what's going on. Okay, thank you. Okay, my letter was May 8th to Dear Mayor Ducey, the Council President Andy Zapsik, and all Brick councilmen and councilwomen. It's been over 6.5 years since the New Jersey Turnpike Authority began the destruction of the foliage around the roadway of the Garden State Parkway. Employees, vendors, residents have all been informed of the hazards associated with the toxins that flow off the Garden State Parkway. The poisons in the air clog the lungs of our seniors, causing COPD and eventually premature deaths. The toxicants impact every child in the area, causing asthma, lung disease, and other respiratory illnesses. Mothers-to-be are exposed to the polluted air as they walk in the streets near their homes like Evergreen Woods, Briar Mill, even the reservoir. Healthy babies have a lower chance of a normal life, and those yet to be born may develop various degrees of autism. With hundreds of thousands of studies available to the people's representatives, it seems like nothing is ever done, and rarely is it ever talked about. Study after study have been presented to this council and mayor, and they are basically ignored. Traffic-related air pollution impacts us all, and since various studies show a great link between the traffic-related air pollution near major highways and the risk of mouth, lung, and breast cancers, shouldn't we all be concerned? 22% of our school children are classified in some kind of special needs programs, so can anyone believe that the environment has no impact? Some employees have said that you can't fight East City Hall and the big money of the bureaucrats and the lobbyists associated with big business and big government bureaucracies. The part-time mayors and council members oversee what the ingrained members of the swamp do, but in reality they have little or no influence in the goings-ons in government. Citizens may stand before the council, mayor, and assemblies, but the real influence lies in the powerful hands of the bureaucracies. The elected officials of the people are either too afraid to stand up to the swamp or feel they need the support of the lobbyists and benefactors of those big bureaucracies. Although an oath of office always indicates that officials will do what's right for the people, the reality is that it's often easy to just sit back, do nothing, and watch the hands of time roll by. What is needed in Evergreen Woods and many places in Brick Township, such as Brick High, Greenbrier, Briar Mill, Brick American Field, Town Hall, Lanes Mill School, and the Reservoir, and other areas where the toxins are harming our seniors, our school children, and all our residents and workers, is increased forestation as well as a 14-foot pollution, safety, and noise wall to curtail some of the damage brought about by the illegal actions of the commissioners of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority. We all realize that a large, overbearing bureaucracy such as the NJTA will not listen to the needs of the people, and if local government officials are not tough-minded in their beliefs or are weak-kneed in their actions, the bureaucratic swamp will just roll over the people's representatives. In order to save the health and well-being of many residents, there is a chance that the authority may listen to the governor, but he must be pushed by our local officials into action, and even the governor answers to those same lobbyists and bureaucrats, so courts may need to take action. The courts may be the only choice, since the swamp is so strong, but just sometimes bad publicity, public humiliation of individuals, and the possibility of financial impairment can at least get some action to be taken. So please, step up, stand out, speak out, and take action. Thanks for your time. I yield back 35 seconds.
Thank you. Ms. Call.
Nan Cole, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. Once again, I started coming to these council meetings in either 2001 or 2002. One of the things I mentioned is that I thought the state I had come from, particularly the city, New York City, with Boss Tweed in the history books for how he controlled things, was really the epitome of the wrong way to do things. Then I came here, and I first loved this town as much as I loved my native Brooklyn, which was a state unto itself and still is. However, Brick Township, particularly the attitude of the governing people on it successively, and not all of them, I have the greatest admiration for the president. She certainly does an excellent job under very difficult circumstances. You have made me into an angry old woman, not just older, and I have aged almost 20 years in the time here. And every one of those 20 years, I've gotten exceedingly angry at the fact that what I was taught all those years ago, with a great education, about the people being in charge and their vote being a secret ballot and having a choice, and it didn't matter if you affiliated yourself with one party or another. When you went into that ballot, you could vote for whomever you felt like. In fact, since I know very well how to work those machines, I've been doing it since 2001, I know how you can write names in. But I also know you have to be very, very particular of the name you write in. Of course, people sometimes write in Bugs Bunny or what have you, although not here. That was done in Brooklyn, and it was a much more onerous task to do. But you have to have the exact way the name appears on the voting polls. So if you want to vote in, and I'm bringing this up because in a couple of weeks there'll be a primary, I would like somebody to come back after the primary is done and tell us, the townspeople, exactly how much money was spent in Brick Township to do that primary. And then, how many votes were cast? I recently heard somebody talk against a candidate for a particular position saying he hasn't ever voted in a primary. What the heck would he vote for? They give you, the political party decides without the district committee people, which I'm one, whom they are going to put on the ballot. They do not put more than one for each position. So why come to the polling and go to that trouble? So think about that. And lastly, I want to talk about an older woman I met who is a legend in Brick Township. Her name is Dot Epstein. She passed away a couple of years ago. I believe she was on the verge of 100 years of age. She wore Coke bottle thick eyeglasses, and I brought her to these meetings and sometimes the Friends of the Library when she could no longer drive. And one of the things that she said, and this goes back just about those 20 years, we need public transportation. She was forced in her older years to never come to these particular meetings. She relied upon, particularly for the Friends, to have neighbors or myself when I was able to get to those meetings because they didn't necessarily have conflicting situations. And it was something that upset her greatly. We are now 80,000, something like that, although I think our numbers are going down. And nobody in all this time has ever saw fit to introduce what Dot Epstein asked for, Lord rest her soul, and provide transportation so elderly people can get to the library, get to the hospital to visit friends, or maybe have medical appointments there and have a true public transportation. Should be a part of the New Jersey. Oh, that's the last thing, too. When are you going to start working with all levels of township, county, and state government as you should be?
Anyone else from the public? Mr. Finelli? I recognize you this time.
Sometime in the near future, I'm going to get a phone call from my son after he watches this meeting, and he's going to say, Pops, what are you, nuts? How many badges were in the room when you were talking about the PBA contract? I'm not nuts, okay? I am concerned, and I want you people to be as concerned as I am. When the mayor sends out his nice little tax notices, he puts a letter in there reminding everybody that you're only about 40% of the budget. Everybody pays the tax levy, whatever you want to call it. And that's true. But you represent 100% of the people, and I want you to think about representing 100% of that budget too, because you know what's happening over there, and if you don't, I'm going to tell you. Right? The tax levy right now is going up 3.7% with all the doodahs in there. You know, you don't count benefits, you can use the cap and everything else. So add yours, add the counties, add everybody else, and then add that. This is only year 2 of the 7-year problem that they have. And it's like compounding interest. It only gets worse. I understand if you give one group a contract, the other people want the same deal or close to it. But if you do that, and they do that, and this keeps getting worse, then you're just crippling the people that you represent. But you don't represent them 40% of the time. You represent them 100% of the time. You might not agree with my thinking that you should be thinking about those people and everything they have to do, but you really need to do that. You really need to say, we're concerned about everybody in Brick and what they're paying, and those 40% that are getting along by the skin of their teeth, but losing. I mean, everything goes up every year. Nothing goes down. The Asbury Park Press just raised it $10 a month. That's a second raise in 9 months. Nothing is going down. So when you give a contract, when you negotiate a contract, when you set the standard for whatever's going to happen the next time, and you give a 4-year contract, you're locked in for the next 4 years. You don't know what's going to happen here, but you know what's going to happen across the street. That 1.8, 2.7, 5, 10 is going to add up to 22 million. That 3.7, they probably won't be able to come up with enough increases with the 2% cap to cover that. That's all I want. I want everybody thinking about the welfare of everybody in the township and what they're going through. It's nice not to say, hey, I want some relief on this, but the answer's got to be no, because the people that pay the bills are not getting it. We are the people that pay for everything. Either we pay you out of this pocket, or we pay the state out of this pocket, and it comes back, but less comes back. When you're negotiating contracts, think about what impact that has on everybody, not just the people that are getting it, not just the 40%, the 100%. And one other thing about signage over there, did you consider signs that say parking for children's playground only? I mean, you do it out here, parking for police, parking for this, parking for that. That way, if somebody wants to spend more than 2 hours in the park, they can. Certainly enforceable. You see 4 people in the parking lot and 20 cars in the parking spaces. Give 18 of them tickets. Or just say, which car is yours? And God forbid somebody wants to spend more than 2 hours in the park. So consider that. It might be next time you're making signs.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. No, excuse me, Ms. Briggs, with the young lady in the back. I'll get to you. You'll be next.
Hi. I just have a question about the skate park. Is it true that you're not going to allow BMX bikes and scooters at the skate park at all?
That's correct, skating only.
Skating only? Can you please explain to me why?
The mixture of skates and bikes and scooters is a danger.
Okay. Do you mind if I follow up on that?
Certainly.
Okay. So I know what you're thinking. I'm not 12 years old, I'm 19. And I've been riding BMX for quite a few years. I race BMX. I've just always been around skate parks. And it's been pretty difficult to find a park that is accepting of BMX bikes, because some of us choose 2 wheels over 4 wheels. And it is frustrating because usually the skate parks that only accept us are run down. And they're in no condition for a bike, nonetheless a skateboard. If you know skateboard wheels, you can't ride them on horrible conditions. So when I found out that finally a park was coming to my side of town, I was pretty excited. And my grandma lives right over here, so I take this route quite often. And when I seen it being built, I said, wow, it's concrete, so maybe we have a chance. They'll allow BMX bikes. Because I don't know if you've ever seen the X Games or anything like that, but all of the contests are typically run on concrete. And I understand that you're concerned about the safety. You know, bikes are a lot bigger than skateboards, I understand that, but the people who are riding them, we're all people and we're all kids just trying to have fun. So if you're going to tell one kid that they can go in the skate park because they choose a skateboard, that's fine. But then if you're going to tell another person, no, you can't do that just because you don't ride a skateboard, you want to ride a bike or a scooter, that's not fair. So I also understand, you know, it's a safety issue, but have you ever heard about the Incline Club? It was in Lakewood.
Yes.
It was a big indoor skate park. It was there for quite a few years, many years actually. It actually just closed down about last year, last January it closed down. That was open to BMX bikes, skateboards, scooters, and rollerblades as well. And there was never really an incident. We all rode together. We were all one big community, and we all were friends. Skateboarders were friends with bikes. We were all friends with each other. And we all let each other take turns on the ramps and went. Of course, there were incidents sometimes, but for the most part, we all enjoyed ourselves, and it was always a safe spot to go. So that's another thing you say about safety. Well, where are we supposed to go ride? We're supposed to go ride to the vacant lot next door, and one of these officers are probably going to come and kick us out anyway. So by saying that you're not going to allow scooters or BMX bikes or rollerblades, you're kind of just putting us out on the street, and there's nowhere for us to ride because the Incline Club closed. So I was also hoping that maybe you could figure something out, maybe like certain days for, you know, bikes, skateboard, scooters, maybe different times, because it's definitely possible. The Incline Club did it for many, many years, and there's plenty of other skate parks as well that allow bikes. So what do we think? Can we get BMX and scooters and so we can all ride and enjoy?
Well, I'm the chairman of the Recreation Committee, and I'll certainly can take that up with the committee the next time we meet. And we'll also have to consult with our risk manager
Okay.
to make sure that that's acceptable, because a lot of different things went into that decision about skateboard only, and some of it has to do with the requirements by our insurers.
Because I understand, it's in the name, skate park, skateboard, but BMX and scooters, that's also where we ride. So like I said,
I don't
we
think
can't
anyone
ride
has
there.
an issue with the bikes, it's the mixture of the
Okay.
two. So we'll take a look at that, and
Okay. Because I know there's definitely there's enough time and there's enough days for all of us to ride. So I'd really appreciate it if one day this summer I would be able to take my BMX bike and not get a ticket and not get kicked out for trying to stay safe and have fun. Thank you.
thank you.
Council President, when you find that out, can I get that information also?
Certainly, it'll be
Thank
in the
you.
minutes of the Recreation Committee meeting.
Thank you. How about the insurer? Can I have their,
Whatever's
Information.
discussed at the
Okay.
meeting will be in the minutes. Anyone else from public? I'm sorry, Ms. Briggs first, and then Mr. Scott.
Melanie Briggs. I'm a little confused because there are some people that come up to this podium that say, I want you to give me all the information, all the background, everything on everything. Then there's another side that says, we want a wall, and I'm not going to tell you. It's up to you to go find the information. Either side, I'm sure, is public information. The information that the wall would protect people from having babies with autism, which children aren't born with autism. It develops when they're 2 or so. So the hospitals wouldn't know that. The number of children with disabilities in town, were they all born here? Nobody moved here with children with disabilities? I remember when autism became newsworthy. Brick was first in doing things for kids with autism, and people were moving here because they said there was great programs for them. Do we count them as the Parkway did that? I can't listen to this anymore. Nobody wants to provide the information, and the other one wants all the information. Now, I've been attending council meetings for many, many years. I went to caucus meetings, and I don't remember a long discussions about everything where the council said, what do you think before we decide about this? They had their meeting, and then they would open it up for public, and you could make a comment, but it wasn't asking you what you thought about it. Like, oh, you just changed our mind totally. I'm tired of sitting home watching meetings and listening to this. I'm tired of sitting here listening to it. People are just bandering anything they want up here. And maybe somebody's going to say I did the same thing. But maybe I'm just getting in on the bandwagon also. But please, the same thing, that clock is important. When people would stand up here for 11, 17 minutes and just go on and on and on and on, you want to go back to that? I don't think so. Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Madam President. George Scott, Queen Anne Road. A couple of things I'd like to bring up in public comment. Number one, if you thought 420 was difficult to understand, 44, which that I didn't discuss about the bonds and notes, is really a difficult one. And I've sat down with the chief financial officer, and I'm pretty good with numbers, as I've said before. But I still will take my same position that I had when we used to do tax anticipation notes. There's a better way. And talking to Maureen, when you look at bond anticipation notes, it's interest that you're paying that could be saved, in my opinion. We have a lot of capital projects going on at a lot of money, a lot of cost. You need bonds. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But when you're going to do these, you could allocate those at certain positions. The bond anticipation notes, you're trying to get ahead of the train and guess at it. Sometimes you're going to guess right. Sometimes you're not going to guess right. But as a taxpayer, I don't want to be paying bond counsel people because that's how they make a living. I'm not here to pay for your living. I'm here to make sure that the projects are done and the money is there when it's needed. So there is a better way. I think the administration should look into it a little bit more and try to take that into consideration. That's number one. Number two, when I talked about ratables before, one of the key things, and nobody keeps bringing the elephant up in the room, the property that we were going to have for $7.5 million sold and then went down to $5.5 million, when are we going to close on that? When is the taxpayer actually going to see that turn into a ratable that the people that are going to do things with it later on that are going to make money, and I don't object to them making money, but I don't want them making money at my expense. Where is the money already? When are we going to close? I don't think we have a definitive date. The mayor turned around, started a lawsuit that cost us $180,000, almost $200,000 to change what he didn't think was right over there. And he had the prerogative to do that, and I'm okay with that. But at the same time, when you did that, you should have said, we're closing. Boom, start paying taxes. I don't see that happening. I really don't. I think that's sad. I come to a lot of meetings, as you know. People get up here and they ask for this and that. I thought it was well put, that person about the skate park, that maybe you can work out different hours to accommodate different things. It was well put, something that the committee should really, think about.
Absolutely.
With that said, if you could look into those things, I would appreciate it. If I could get an answer on when we're going to close on our property, I'd like that all the more.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Diaz.
Marcel Diaz, 409 Raleigh Road. I want to reference the email that was sent out to everybody and the response that I got back, only because I feel that there were inaccuracies on what was responded back. So when you responded back, you said there was an application in, correct? Correct?
Correct. What I said was that the application was never formally withdrawn.
Okay. To that, I have a letter from their attorney dated March 6th, if I could just read that to you guys. My client has decided to forego its request for a medical marijuana dispensary and will limit its request to cultivating and manufacturing marijuana, which is a permitted agricultural use. We therefore ask that this matter be transferred to the planning board. So is that not a withdrawal?
That's correct. Mr. Starkey, do you want to take it from here?
You're right, that letter was sent in. What actually happened, the applicant's attorney asked that the medical marijuana facility that was pending before the zoning board be transferred to the planning board.
Mm-hmm.
The planning board did not know if it had jurisdiction, but there were, at that point in time, 2 applications pending, because he then filed a second one. So what he was asked to do was withdraw your first one, your zoning board application, and the planning board is going to make a determination on the second one. So there actually has been an application pending, although it's different than the one that was originally filed. But he had 2 pending, he had 1 pending, and then the second one, and then he withdrew the first one. There's been an application pending since, I guess, maybe a year or so, a year and however long that other one was, the first one was filed.
So there was 2 applications pending from the get-go?
No, sir. There was an application that was filed for a medical marijuana facility.
Right.
And a dispensary included with that.
Correct.
That was before the zoning board. I think there were a couple of hearings before the zoning board.
Last one was January 9th.
The applicant then decided that they're not going to have a dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have a grow facility. That was then filed with the planning board because the applicant believed that that was where it was properly located. Right. The applicant was asked to withdraw the application, the first application, which hadn't been done yet. So that's what that letter was. It withdrew that first application. The pending application now for the Grove facility is scheduled for hearing before the zoning board. I think it's on May 30th in a couple of weeks. So there is a pending application. Slightly different from the first one in that the dispensary part of it has been withdrawn.
Right. I also have that letter as well, where they said it was not a conforming use, that they're going to pass it back to the Board of Adjustment.
Correct.
Okay. Now, my question to you is if it was put in front of the planning board and they denied it, okay, because they said it wasn't a conforming use, they didn't have jurisdiction to say that it was conforming use, don't they have to apply again through the board, the variance? Or through the Board of Adjustment, rather?
That application that was filed before the planning board was transferred by the planning board attorney to the zoning board because the planning board did not know if it was a conforming use. Could not determine because it's, the ordinances aren't clear. Only the zoning board can make that determination, which is what's on for the hearing on the 30th of this month before the zoning board.
Right, but shouldn't that be left to the applicant, right, to say whether or not they want to go forward with that, as opposed to the township saying, well, we'll just pass it along? Shouldn't they be applying again by law
Well, they have applied. They have an application pending.
with the planning board?
Oh,
Not with the
I
Board of
understand what you're saying.
Adjustment.
No, the municipal land use law does not allow the planning board to hear that application because the planning board, if it cannot determine if it has jurisdiction, it has to send it to the zoning board. That's just the way the municipal land use law works.
So it doesn't go back to the applicant where they have to reapply and do it the right way?
It could have been done that way. An objector could have filed it. There are sort of 3 or 4 different ways it could have been done. The planning board and the citizens chose to put it before the zoning board.
Okay. And this date was picked and approved by all parties involved?
You're talking about the matter for the zoning board?
The May 30th.
I don't know. I know what's happening. I don't know how that date was picked or what they intended to do.
Mr. Starkey, could I ask a question on that? Will the neighbors be noticed again on that date? Because that date is not on the zoning, it's not on the website.
They should be, yes. I'll look into that. I don't,
Okay.
yeah.
When I reached out to you, you had said you thought perhaps the end of the month, which is what I said in my
Correct.
email,
You
maybe
didn't
by the
have
end
a
of the month.
specific date.
Yeah, I still think it's perhaps the end of the month. I've heard this May 30th. Notice is required at least 10 days prior to a hearing, so
Correct.
what's today, the
10 days.
14th? So notice should be out in the next week or so.
Right.
If in fact, it's going to go forward on May 30th, which I believe it is.
Okay. Also in the response was that with what I asked to, I guess, to be looked at for, may I continue? by the way?
Certainly.
What I asked to be amended in the recreational ban. You said that there were things that were being looked at by Councilman Mamolo as far as the zoning for the RR1. Did we get any resolution on that? Did we get any information?
No, our planner is still working on the maps, looking at the RR1s and you had talked about a 1,000-foot buffer between any residential areas. I think she's still working on that.
Yes, there were a couple things, and this was just adopted through other townships on what they have. I've actually sent that to you, but to get it on record, what we're asking for is to, whereas the township has determined that business selling marijuana in farms that grow marijuana require special concerns for security, safety, and location, and whereas the township desires to ensure that such facilities and that dispense marijuana are not allowed within a quarter mile of schools, churches, or playgrounds, or any commercial or residential zone. And whereas there is no area of the township where can safely house a business selling, manufacture, or growing marijuana and/or the paraphernalia that facilitates the use of such marijuana. In addition, we also need to address the farming activities in the municipal code of the R1 zoning code. From what we looked up on the map, it's the second largest zoning code of Brick. So the concerns for us are, if you allow one, that probably will be case study to allow many others. And with the way the law's going, it looks like they're going to be opening up more licenses to be given out on the 20th of May. It was just in the paper, just recently.
Today?
Yep, today. So that's why we're trying to get something done to protect the residents who live and I'm one of them that lives 200 feet from the facility, and some are less, 50 feet. So I'd hope that you guys would consider this. Thank you.
Mr. Sluka?
Sorry, I had it on the back of my paper and I didn't, last 35 seconds. Ride for Autism, June 2nd. Anybody wants to contribute, anybody that wants to participate, you can get on your bikes and go a few miles and get contributors to add in so you all could participate either financially or by being a participant. And it's all over the state of New Jersey, so you don't have to look too far away. And the other thing is, I want to acknowledge I did get invited to a meeting at the end of the month, right, pertaining to the wall. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Seeing none, close public. Mrs. Bergen? I have nothing, thank you. Mayor?
Thank you. Just want to say that the farmers market is open this Saturday, May 18th. It's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Windward Beach. They're open every single Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. all the way through September. Also, this Saturday is Kids to Parks Day. It's basically it's a bus that starts at our Civic Plaza, and it's going to visit 5 of our parks to showcase them to various residents who don't get a chance to go to different neighborhoods to check out the parks. You do have to register through Recreation at 732-262-4622. On Thursday, May 23rd at 5 o'clock will be our ribbon cutting for Bernie Cook Park. Bernie Cook Park is behind the Wawa right by exit 91. It is going to be a baseball/softball field, a playground for little kids, a playground for big kids, a bike training course for little kids to be able to learn what street signs are and how to make turns on corners, and then the skateboard park. It's going to be open to everybody, but obviously we wanted the neighborhood to come out there at 5 p.m. on May 23rd. We're going to have some professional skateboarders out there showing what they can do on the new design skateboard. Has rails, has bowls, everything else. So it'll be a great time. Our Memorial Day Parade is on Memorial Day, Monday, May 27th. It starts at 10 o'clock a.m. at the future Sports Dome site and continues down Route 70 and make a right-hand turn onto Chambers Bridge Road. And it will end here at Town Hall, where we have a great ceremony that honors all the branches of the military. The Gold Star Moms are there, the VFW, American Legion, and their auxiliaries and the bikers, and everybody will be there for the great ceremony. So please support the parade either by marching in it, and it's still available to sign up for that, or coming out and watching. A couple different places to park along the way, the library, the high school. Obviously here at Town Hall you get to see the ceremony. And then lastly, I wanted to give an update on the Sports Dome, since I called it, instead of the former Food Town site, I did call it the future Sports Dome. So we're finally able to sit down and get some information about what is going on and why it's taken so long. I thought the thing was in for CAFRA for a while, the permit, but it's not yet. So what we're waiting on is the Ocean County Soils. We're waiting a response, and when I say we, it's really it's the developer of the Sports Dome, who's their engineer is submitted to Ocean County Soils. He's waiting for a response. Wetlands, which is a state agency, the letter of interpretation was submitted, so we're waiting for a response. The MUA has to take a look at it. And then it has to go to the Ocean County Planning Board, where a hearing will be there before that board. And then when all that is done, it then gets submitted off to CAFRA. But all those steps have to be taken first, and that's what we're waiting for. So it's not necessarily government red tape. It is that you have to go through all these hoops, but I guess all of it is there for protection. Obviously, the soils, to make sure there's nothing contaminated and that the dirt, the soil's going in the right place. The wetlands, to make sure nothing is happening to our wetlands, and obviously CAFRA to make sure nothing's going into our drinking water. But we are waiting for the Sports Dome developer to get through all of this. And the Sports Dome developer is working hand in hand with the developer of the stores in the front although the sports dome wants to be open as soon as possible, and the developer in the front with the stores is okay with waiting a few years. But as long as we get the sports dome, we can all wait for more stores, right? Nobody's begging for more stores here in Brick. So the sports dome is what's important, and hopefully we'll get through this process. They will get through this process quickly, and we can get it back before we're done with the planning board. We can get it back before this council for final approval and have a sports dome there. And hopefully this time next year, we'll at least be under construction or something happening that I might not have to say. The future sports dome site, I can say we no longer can line up there. We have to line up on the side street, which is, I've been waiting for it for years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Starkey? Nothing. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Nothing, thank you.
Madam Secretary?
Nothing, thank you.
Councilman Fosman?
Yes, I do. Mayor, can I ask you a question? You're talking about the sports dome. How about the stores in the front? Are they applying for the permits too? So they're all doing it at the same time?
It's a joint application. So they decided to use the sports dome's engineer to do all the work. So that's who's doing all the work, but he's doing it for both, just because.
No, I just want to see it so we get the money all at the same time. It closes all at the same time, that's all. Thank you. Before I have my council comments, I just have one question for the administration. We all have protocols to meet, like policies here that we have to sign and everything. I'm sure the police have the same thing. And what's the procedure if a township employee is involved in an accident and involving a township vehicle? I'm just saying, for me, it's my understanding is if an employee is involved in such an accident, they should call their supervisor right away. Then the police are alerted. It is also my understanding that currently the township employee who has a CDL license must automatically be tested for drugs, and they are if they're in an accident. So what is the protocol if an employee does not have a CDL license and they are involved in such an accident? Do they do the same procedure?
Yes,
So
we
the
do.
drug test it and everything too?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I was curious about. Okay, on May 4th, my wife and I, along with friends, attended the Brick United Dinner and Gift Auction portion at the first annual Warren Wolf Scholarship Golf Outing fundraiser. Their sole mission is to this fundraiser was to raise money for graduating classes of both Brick High School and Brick Memorial School for their continued education. They sponsor 4 seniors, 2 at Brick High School and 2 at Brick Memorial High School, will receive scholarships towards their college expenses. We attended it. It was a fantastic event, and by all accounts, a very successful event. And the amount of interest generated brought out a huge audience in the community. There was outstanding meals, and they also had a gift auction there. They raised quite a bit of money, and it's nice of them to come together, 2 Brick schools, and to have this fundraiser. On May 5th, my wife and I also attended the Yom HaShoah Holocaust Memorial commemoration, co-sponsored with the Living Faith Bible Church, held at the Temple of Beth Or here in Brick, and that was to bring all the communities together, and the rabbis, the priests were there from different factions, and I hope all the moms had a nice Mother's Day, and let's all hope for some sunshine and warm weather. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pontoriero?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilwoman Dion?
Thank you. I just have a real quick buy and brick update. We have a new vendor or merchant. It is King Home Services. They specialize in heating, air conditioning, and ductwork, and are offering a 10% rebate on their work. And that is all I have for this evening, and hope to see everybody out at the Farmers Market on Saturday and the Memorial Day Parade on Memorial Day.
Thank you. Councilman Mumolo?
Thank you, Madam President. First off, the honor students did a great job at the senior prom that we attended. It was really nice. Dancing with all the seniors, it was good. Document shredding, May 25th at the Public Works on Ridge Road from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So anything you need shredded, you could bring there and have shredded. And one other thing, I usually say around springtime to change your batteries in your smoke alarms, and I don't think I said it this spring, but the other night at 2:30 in the morning, I found out I forgot. So everybody change your batteries so you don't get woken up at 2:30 in the morning. It's time for changing the batteries. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Heller?
Thank you. Just want to thank the officers who take the time to recognize issues with mental health in their workaday jobs. A lot of times their behaviors are misread and incidents happen. We thank those who do recognize it. I'd also like to thank especially the EMS people who are the first responders. It's amazing how quickly they respond and how caring they are in their actions. So just thank everybody. That's it.
Thank you. Council Vice President Creighton.
Thank you. My announcement this evening is for those of you out there who have a green thumb but do not have a yard to do any planting in. I want to let you know that the Township of Brick, their Mike Fowler Community Garden that's located at Havens Homestead has 6 plots available. They're $20 per plot and they're 4x8 raised beds. And the planting season, they're open now from May 1st through October 31st. So basically you go out there, they're open from sunrise to sunset. You can drive over, you get your little 4x8 plot, you can bring your gardening tools, and you can plant whatever is in season, whatever you'd like to plant. Now's the time to start planting your tomatoes and cucumbers, so you have time to put that in there, and then you would go by daily and take care of it, and then reap the fruits of your labor. So they're $20 per plot. I know I said that already. There are 6 left. There are 13 total. And the beds are assigned on a first-come, first-served basis. And applications can be found online under the land use heading, or you can go to the land use department and pick up an application and drop it off there, and then start gardening. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, Chief and Captain Reinhardt and our community policing officers, our EMS, and everyone who took the time to come out tonight and speak. It's really important that we hear from all of you. And young lady, I most absolutely will take your suggestions to the Recreation Committee. And if you want to see me after the meeting, I will give you my card and we can stay in touch by email. And I will update you with what's discussed and what's decided on the skate park versus the BMX bikes. And that's all I have this evening. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. here in this room.
Council President's absent. Can I add one thing, because it's kind of a nice way to end the meeting? If
Yes.
that's okay. Wanted to congratulate Captain Reinhardt for just celebrating his 25-year anniversary with Brick Township. 25 years of exceptional service. Would you like to bang the gavel to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.